Hello everyone, I'm Math, and I'm showing you how to play Magic the Gathering. Thank you for watching. This is the second episode of the series, and I'm talking about card advantage. Before I start, I wanted to ask you to subscribe. It's effortless, you can always change your mind, and it helps me out a lot. Thank you and enjoy the video. I spent some time talking about mana in a different video. How mana works is when you want something to happen, you use a card, or multiple cards, that will create the effect that you want, amass the proper amount of mana, and then cast the spell or spells. Pretty simple, right? However, there's some more complicated stuff that goes on. When you cast a 1 mana, 1/1 creature, that could be green, and pump it up with the 2 mana enchantment, one with the wind, you get a 3/3 creature with flying. That's only green. To get the same creature, you could cast a Tower Gargoyle. Both cost exactly the same, 3 mana, and the 1/1 creature with the enchantment would only need 1 color, green, while the Tower Gargoyle will take 3 full colors in your deck. In pure mana terms, you would never pick the Tower Gargoyle over the enchanted creature. However, the Tower Gargoyle could still be more efficient than the enchanted creature. You see, casting the enchanted creature takes 2 cards out of your hand, and casting the Tower Gargoyle takes 1. You only start with 7 cards in your hand, and you can only draw 1 per turn. That's a pretty strict barrier to how many cards you can get. If 2 opponents are playing each other and one casts the Gargoyle while the other casts the enchanted 1/1, they've gotten a 3/3 flyer with 3 mana. However, the player with the Gargoyle has an extra card in their hand. That's an advantage that could change the game, depending on which card it is, of course. A player who doesn't care about card advantage and doesn't treat those cards as a resource will most likely waste spells and be frivolous. They will quickly run out of cards and spells to do, since their hand will be gone and be playing only by the tops of their libraries, which is a very unreliable way to play. A player who does treat cards as a valuable resource will use all of the value in each and every spell and have a higher chance at victory. Card advantage becomes more and more important as players get higher in skill. In competitive Magic, 1 or 2 cards of card advantage could decide the game. After all, the term card advantage is almost as old as the game is. The original definition is stated as card advantage is any process by which a player obtains effectively more cards than his or her opponent. These processes come in a variety of different forms. One way to get card advantage over your opponent is to draw more cards. That seems pretty obvious, but it is expensive. Both players can only draw 1 card per turn, so the only way to achieve more cards is to cast spells that will draw you cards. An example is the card Weave Fate. This will draw you 2 cards, but keep in mind, it costs you 1 card to play the spell, so it will only net you 1 card upwards. Another example is the card Day Tome, which gets you 1 card every time you activate its ability, but it takes 1 card out of your hand, and a decent amount of mana, to get it out in the first place. If you activate it once, you will have broken even on cards, and if you activate it 3 times, you will have netted yourself 2 cards. Remember, if a spell only draws you 1 card, you net 0 cards, but the card you draw will be a new one, so it's kind of like a cycle. Remember, card advantage isn't just how many cards you have in your hand. The battlefield should also count for something. There's a card called Tower Geist that draws you 1 card, along with being a creature that goes on the battlefield when you cast it. So you would spend 1 card to get 1 card drawn, as well as a 2/2 with flying. I kind of think of card advantage as in 2 separate states. There is a battlefield card advantage and a hand card advantage. They don't interact with each other than having cards added between them or subtracted. By definition, advantage is about your own position relative to your opponent's. So to gain card advantage over the opponent, you don't actually need to draw cards. You just need to take theirs away. There are several ways to do this. For example, I could cast Mind Rot and get rid of 2 of my opponent's spells. I would lose a card by casting a spell, but they would lose 2, so I would gain 1 card. In terms of card advantage, attacking permanents is like attacking the cards in the hand, just on the battlefield. If I were to cast a card like Languish, I could take out several of the opponent's cards on the battlefield. However, for this to gain me card advantage, I'd have to take out at least two of the creatures on my opponent's side, then on my side, since this card will affect me as well. Another part of card advantage, and this is pretty important, is called virtual card advantage. While numerical counting card advantage, which is just counting how many cards you have in your library or on the battlefield, it is nice to do and it is pretty important, but it isn't always an accurate way to judge the game. A good example is a card like Sworn Companions. Technically, Sworn Companions will add two cards to the battlefield for the price of one card being put into the graveyard, so it nets you one card. However, the issue here is that the counting method of card advantage counts a card like Sworn Companions, which will create two 1/1 tokens, and a card like Priest of the Blood Rite as the same amount. They're both technically a 2-for-1 deal in terms of card advantage, but the 1/1 creatures created by Sworn Companions become pretty much useless as soon as I play a 2/2 creature, since they can't attack anymore without, dying and not doing anything. And what about that 5/5 demon that also comes with Priest of the Blood, right? That is a very heavy hitter. That's much more important than a 1/1 token, since it can fly, and it will most likely change the game. However, in Magic the Gathering, any game that goes to medium or long length will eventually reach a point where a card like Sworn Companions is very unlikely to change the game. At that point, you should probably stop counting the cards at Sworn Companions as card advantage and start shifting to thinking about virtual card advantage. Ideally, you should be considering both at the same time, right from the start. The only difference between numerical card advantage and virtual card advantage is the fact that virtual card advantage accounts for the fact that not every Magic card is equal in power. Another big part of virtual card advantage is called dead cards. Do you remember when I talked about mana flooding in my mana video? If you draw too many lands and not enough spells, that's called mana flooding. The extra lands that you draw are not helpful at all. When you have enough lands to do whatever you need, drawing another one is considered useless. That land is a dead card. Dead cards can't impact the game, and having less dead cards is a big part of winning competitive Magic. There's two ways to get ahead in dead cards, pretty similar to how you get ahead in card advantage. The first way is to make more of your opponent's cards useless. This is called blanking. When you play a powerful creature, you blank all the blockers or attackers that your opponent has that are less powerful. For example, if I played a card called Pharika's Disciple, when this hits the board, 1/1s and 2/2s can no longer attack to any effect. They are blanked. If your opponent has a card called Smash to Smithereens, for example, you could just play no artifacts to instantly blank that card. You can also reduce the risk of getting a dead card by using the Scry ability. A very nice card for this is the card Sigiled Starfish. If you're being mana flooded, you could just use the ability to scry any useless lands to the bottom of your deck, so you get better cards that you actually do need. This card will never give you a direct card advantage that counts in numericals. However, it gives you a huge boost to your virtual card advantage by avoiding dead cards. Another way to get a virtual card advantage is to use higher value cards. In the example I explained earlier, the Sworn Companions card and the 5/5 Demon card, the 5/5 Demon is superior because it is likely to do a large amount of damage on its own, and that makes it a high value card, while the Sworn Companions tokens are a low value card. You can cast your draw spells all you want, but if you're only drawing lower power cards, one higher value card that is played will make it all seem like a big waste of time and mana. It is important to understand the theory behind card advantage and be able to use numerical card advantage in simple exchanges, However, there's also times when the counting method is just not enough, and you should recognize when virtual card advantage can be more important. Remember, higher level magic is often very close, and a small source of card advantage, like a 2-for-1 trade on the battlefield or a single blanked card, could be a difference between a loss and a win. Thank you for watching. I hope this video came in handy, and if you enjoyed it, I think you might like the other content I am posting on my channel, so please subscribe since it helps me make more videos like these. I think I'm gonna make a video about like more advanced combat. So, bye, I guess.